5 most shocking exposes in the modern history. Number 1. When North Carolina was almost nuked. The number 1 shocking declassification on our list is an incident from early 1961 when a B-52 bomber almost accidentally nuked the entire North Carolina territory. You heard it correct. Once upon a time a B-52 bomber almost vaporized North Carolina by accidentally dropping 2 4-megaton Mark 39 hydrogen bombs, which are 150 times bigger than the ones dropped on Japan. In January of 1961 the bomber plane was on its way of aerial refueling when suddenly a major leak in the fuel tank was identified. Soon the entire aircraft split apart in the mid-air. At that time the aircraft was containing 2 hydrogen bombs, both of which were released in the air. One of the 2 bombs got caught in tree branches due to its parachute, while all the safety switches failed for the other bomb except for one safety switch which prevented it from going off. The entire incident was kept a secret till 2013. Number 2. Operation Northwoods. False flag operation. When you hear this term, what comes in your head? Conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hats, right? A scary massive false flag operation was planned by the U.S. Department of Defense and Joint Chief of Staffs, which ultimately was rejected by the Kennedy administration. This secret operation was declassified in November 1997. The plan proposed that CIA and other government units will commit act of terrorism on the U.S. soil, against the U.S. citizens and on the U.S. civil and military targets, and ultimately blame these acts of terrorism on the Cuban government. The intention was to gain public sympathy to go on war against Cuba, which was then headed by Fidel Castro. The declassified documents exposed the chilling proposals that had been made, which included hijacking planes, destroying a U.S. ship, sinking boats of Cuban refugees, assassination of Cubans living in exile in the U.S., terrorizing U.S. cities and many more. President John F. Kennedy rejected the operation. He also removed Lyman Lemnitzer, who was the chairman of JCS, which initially proposed the plan. Number 3. Black Brant Scare. Once Russia was almost tricked into nuking the entire United States because of its own illusion. If you have seen the movie War Games, you might find this very similar. The incident took place on January 25, 1995, when a collaboration between Norwegian and American scientists to study Aurora Borealis resulted in Russia panicking and preparing for nuclear attack on the US. The Norwegian and American scientists launched a rocket that contained scientific equipment intended for the purpose of studying northern lights. The rocket eventually reached to a height of 900 miles in an air corridor that separated the Russian capital city Moscow and a nuclear missile center in the United States. Due to its trajectory, the rocket resembled a U.S. submarine-launched nuclear missile on the Russia radar system. As a result, the Russians went into panic mode. Their nuclear forces were put on high alert and the nuclear briefcase was brought to the Russian President Boris Yeltsin for retaliatory nuclear attack against America. The Russian submarine commanders were put on state of combat when suddenly the Russian observers noticed that the missile actually was heading away from Russia and fell on Earth near Spitsbergen, as the scientists had planned. And thus, once upon a time the world was saved from destruction. Number 4. United States vs. Reynolds. Should a government elected by the people lie to its own citizen? United States vs. Reynolds is a case from 1948. A Superfortress bomber plane crashed, killing 9 of the 13 on-board crew members. The wives of 3 deceased in the incident sued the government to release the accident report related to the crash, something they were legally entitled to. But in its surprising move, the government declined to make the report public, saying the making report public would threaten the national security. This was a claim the government made in the Supreme Court. The report was finally declassified in early 2000, and nothing sensitive that could have hampered national security was found on the report. So was it an incident of government lying to the Supreme Court? You decide. Number 5. Catholic hospital sold 30,000 babies. A 50-year-long scandal of baby trafficking was recently exposed by a BBC documentary. It began in 1939 as a process of taking away babies of families deemed politically dangerous by the General Franco regime of Spain. It gradually turned into a systematic process of abducting and selling babies, which went on for 50 years. Until 1987, hospitals in Spain regulated the adoption process. Children of young, and often unmarried, women who gave birth in Catholic hospitals of Spain were often told that their young one had died. The hospital did not allow these women to attend the burial of their own babies. A network of doctors, nurses, priests and nuns would then traffic these children and sell them to rich, devoted childless couples who were often told that mothers of these babies had abandoned them. It is estimated that more than 15% of all the adoptions which took place in these 5 decades were part of this scandal. Shocking, isn't it?